All right. So I have started the event. First of all, today we are going to be discussing EPD generation for Indian manufacturers. Today we have uh, Ved Pathak from Starter Geosystems. He is going to talk about how their company was able to produce EPDs. Suraj, if you don't mind, I'm going to mute you. I think there's a lot of echo. Okay, yeah, I think this is a lot better. So we are going to talk about sustainable innovation. We are going to talk about a very interesting product that is geosynthetics. It is Suraj will be explaining a lot more in detail about geosynthetics and how they have used one-click LCA to produce EPDs. So we have Suraj Ved Pathak, who is the DGM Technical Development from Starter Geosystems, and I'm also joined by my colleague Mohammad Ali, who is the international marketing lead for One Click LCI, and of course, there's also me. All right. Okay. So today we are going to talk about, first I'm going to give you an introduction into one-click LCA, and then we will talk about the EPD case study, which is going to be done by Suraj. And later on, I'm going to go into the technicals of an EPD creation and how we help clients achieve EPDs. All right. So one-click LCA, we are the world's leading construction and LCA manufacturing LCA software. So we have three verticals of tools. The first one is building LCA, second is infrastructure LCA, and the third is manufacturing LCA. So you can do an LCA for buildings. You can even achieve green building certifications such as LEED, BREEAM, Living Building Challenge, all of these. Even infrastructure. So if you're working on roads and bridges, then you can also do an LCA for these type of projects. For manufacturers, we have a product LCA and even third party verified EPDs. We work worldwide. We are operating currently in 130 countries. One-click LCA, we are an aggregator of data. So we gather data from different data sources. So we do have data for Indian manufacturers. So you can see how Suraj will also explain how they worked with data. We also have EPD data from different sources. All of our tools are compliant with various green building software such as LEED, BREEAM, Living Building Challenge, Green Star, Green Mark, IGBC, all of these green building systems. An EPD, very shortly, I'm going to explain what an EPD is for someone who is not aware what an EPD is. An EPD is a document which communicates the environmental performance or the impact of any product or material over its lifetime. That means as a manufacturer, you are declaring this is the environmental impact as a result of producing this particular product. The stages, this is called a life cycle assessment. It is divided into different stages. So we have A1 to A3, which is typically called embodied carbon. So when you are manufacturing something, that would be like a raw material extraction, raw material transport to the manufacturing site, and manufacturing itself. Then we have A4 and A5, that is transportation. Once you have, let's say, like a concrete block, or in this case, geosynthetic product, once you have manufactured, when the transportation to and installation to the building site is A4 and A5. B1 to B5 is the actual use of the building, of the product. All right. And C1 to C4 is end of life. That is what happens to your product at the end of life. So as manufacturers, an LC analysis forces the manufacturer to not just think about the emissions from embodied carbon, but also to think about what happens to their product at end of life. Is it going for recycling? Is it going for reuse? What is the use? So that is what an LCA analysis helps you understand what is the environmental impact every stage of its use. Okay. So to explain very simply, I'm going to use a very simple example, that is cake. Okay. To make a cake, you need flour, you need eggs, you need butter, you need sugar. Okay. Now, all of these ingredients also have a calorific value attached to it. Okay. And then you use electricity, water, and oil and everything, and you bake a cake. Okay. Now, in this case, how we can use the similar analogy when using when describing A1 to A3 data collection, that is your raw materials. Okay. So that is, let's say, for a steel product. So you have scrap steel, raw steel, hot rolling, cold rolling. So you have all your bill of materials. All right. And then these bill of materials has embedded carbon. That is, in this case, it will be the calorific value. All right. So that is attached to each product. Okay. That is what one click LCA data points give you. So for every steel product or every raw material that you have, there will be an embedded carbon value that is attached, which you can find from the software. And then you use different resources like electricity, gas for heating, all of that, and use your manufacturing resources and get a product, let's say, like a steel billet. All right. It's a very simple analogy. It is purely for understanding that I've used this example. I hope it is useful and doesn't confuse people further. All right. Now, when we look at an environmental impact study or an EPD, it is basically like looking at the nutritional facts in a product, in a food product. All right. So you have serving size. So 1 cup. All right. So 1 cup of something has this many calories. Similarly, when we say in an EPD, we call it declared unit. So let's say 1 cubic meter of something or 1 kilometer of something or one ton of cement. This is the environmental impact. All right. So that is what you are trying to understand. Now, calories is, of course, the most how do you say, colloquial term for explaining what the nutritional facts in a particular food product is. Similarly, carbon is a value that is colloquially used to talk about environmental impact. All right. Apart from carbon, there are also other impacts like there is ODP, there is fresh water, acidification, eutrophication, formation of ozone, all of these things. Just like how in a food label, you will have fats, you will have cholesterol, you will have sodium, you will have fiber, all of these things. So this is a very simple way to explain to people what an EPD is. All right. Um, Okay, now we will go where I will pass the baton to Suraj, and Suraj will talk about his product and how they went about getting an EPD for their product. Go ahead, Suraj.
Okay. Uh, Thank you, Natasha, for giving a brief and introducing us for all the EPD certifications that we are doing it with you. First of all, just want to know, am I audible clearly to all the audience?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so good. So good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to all my colleagues who have joined online from different parts of the world. And we'll be just talking about the sustainable innovations that Strata has been spearheading for a couple of decades using geosynthetics. To give you an idea of what we have been through these years, so we are the conglomerate in geosynthetic segment. We are established over 2 decades ago with a partnership with Glenraven, which is a 140-year-old global leader in the technical textiles. And we particularly are pioneer in the geosynthetic based solutions, which have been used aggressively in different civil engineering solutions particularly. And we have the manufacturing capability to manufacture different parts of geosynthetics, naming geogrid, geocells, geosynthetic drains, geotextiles. And we have few offices in India, Spain, and US. The right side picture which you see, a beautiful picture which is a roadway network, and on the right there is a gray sort of blocks which are attached to it. So you can see this is a reinforced soil structure, and you can save a lot of footprint, which I'll be explaining in the further slides. So can you go to the next? Yeah. So first of all, why geosynthetics? Why do you require it? When you have the natural resources, why you want to use the geosynthetics? Yeah, obviously one would ask, when we have an option to use the natural resources, geosynthetic helps you to reduce your carbon footprint enormously. Not only that, giving the same value which your natural resources are giving you in different engineering applications. To give you a perspective, you can see on the slides, you use the road filter layer, a stabilization purpose, landfill construction, slope retention. Almost everywhere you can see there is a tremendous reduction of the environmental impact. And using geosynthetic, I use the same analogy which a reinforced concrete. What reinforced soil is actually similar to the reinforced concrete which otherwise has in the concrete segment. The steel is used as a tensile member and the concrete is used as a compression member. Similarly, the geosynthetic is used in the reinforcement application as a reinforcement member, and the soil is used as a compression member. So you can see the number speaks for itself. 75% of lower environmental impact, 85% lower non-renewable cumulative energy demand, and 90% of greenhouse emissions have been lowered just by using the road filter layer, which otherwise one uses the gravel, which is very difficult to procure from the quarries, different parts of the world. We have been facing a lot of challenge because of the climate change, and that impact can also be reduced using geosynthetics. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah. So what we are and what we can propose. Startup has been pioneer in giving solutions to the different applications. You name the sector and we are there with some or the other solutions with geosynthetics. In highways, in railways, mining, landfills, water infrastructures, airport, ports, container yard, and land development, we have geosynthetic solutions which will help you and enable you to reduce the impact on the natural resources and also to give the sustainable solutions for the durable lifespan of the structure which is intended for the use. One typical example I would like to give it to you, which is very interesting. You can see on this slide, this is in the western part of India, in a state called Gujarat, where we have done some work with the Western Railway. And this is for the strengthening of the bridge approaches. So you can see a couple of images which shows that there is a bridge deck onto the side and there are geosynthetics which have been used. In this particular case, we have used the geocells and infilled with the locally available soil, which is the same soil which was dug out from the embankment and refilled and compacted to ensure that it stays and gives the performance through the stabilized base. So can you go to the next slide? Yeah. So these are the steps one need to use. It's like very simple to use in the construction aspect. You can just collapse the entire geocells and transport it to the site, and then you just expand and open those matrices, infill with the soil which is available over there, compact it, and then the surface is intact. So you have the confinement effect through the geocells, which is helping you to give the smooth transition to the entire rail, which is coming from the bridge deck to the embankment portion. And this smooth transition give you a rider comfort, which is very necessary in case of the high speed railways. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah. Now, why do we use it? What does benefit it gives a user? So when you use this geocell layers, so onto the left side, you see the black portion. So this is basically a multiple layer of geocells which have been stacked one upon other and infilled with the specific type of soil. and then compacted. On top of it, you have the ballast layer and the sleeper and rails. Now, this particular segment, when the rail, when the train goes from the bridge deck and goes towards the embankment, if you are not utilizing this geosynthetic, there is an abrupt shift and there is a slight discomfort to the passengers who are sitting in the train. And that discomfort can be mitigated by using geocells and gives you a smooth transition. What additionally it gives, you can just think it replaces 200 cubic meter of the concrete, 100 cubic meter of the aggregate, and similar to the same 100 cubic meter of soil per bridge. That's it. And otherwise, in the conventional way, this solution requires the use of concrete. To the extent possible, you require a curing time of 28 days. You require a special shuttering material to infill the concrete and then make sure that the compaction is done properly and the strength is at you. So you don't have time. In the fast-paced world, the things needs to move on a same level at which people want it. So not only that, it further reduces your carbon footprint because you're saving on the concrete. You're eliminating the concrete altogether. And that's what the geosynthetics gives you a benefit when you are utilizing in the civil engineering with an appropriate way. Can we go to next? Yes, couple of things which are required when you're utilizing the geosynthetic. You need to have a proper way of manufacturing. You need to have certain marking standards as per the international practices. Like in case if one has to use this material in the European region, the CE mark is very much required. It gives you the quality of the product and how the product is being manufactured, what are the parameters one states in their data sheet and the design manuals. Similarly, if we have to use it in India, the ISI mark is very much required. And if you are using it for the systems, say for the matter of reinforced soil structure, which otherwise I was talking to you a while ago, so you need to have a BBS certifications. Same goes for the US. When you are utilizing it, you require an NTPEP certification, and New Zealand Transport Agency has their own certification. All of these certifications require an immaculate standard to follow for the manufacturing as well as for the application orientation. What leads us to go further is to have an environmental assessment, because all the standards just gives you a technical parameter, but how much of the carbon footprint we are able to impact onto the global level using this geosynthetic is done with the EPD hub, and our products are EPD verified. So earlier ago, Natasha was explaining you the stages of the EPDs which one has to follow to get the certifications. So this is what is required, and this goes to give you a greener impact to the global market when you are utilizing your product with EPD verified certifications. So couple of products I want to explain it in this slide is like the capacity building is required to use this product for different applications. So strata grid is used for the reinforcement in the reinforced soil structures, for the basal reinforcement below the embankment, and all of the civil engineering applications where the reinforcement is taken care otherwise by the different materials. So strata grid gives you a range from up to 1,000 kilonewton per meter in the uniaxial and 200 kilonewton per meter in the biaxial directions. So you can utilize. We are proud to say that we are the first geocell manufacturers in India with the production capacity of 100 kilotons per meters per year. And geocells, being a three-dimensional product, can be utilized for several applications in the civil engineering structures. So you name it, for the basal reinforcement, you name it for the container yards, port, railways, slope erosion control along the embankments, in highways, for the airports. This product is very well versatile product to be used as a confinement product. Coming to the Stratatex HSR, it is a geotextile which gives you a separation and the reinforcement aspect. I'm talking bit of a civil engineering terminologies in presentation because the intended use of this geosynthetic is more technical in nature, and one needs to understand the functionality of this product when you are utilizing in your different civil engineering projects. Strata drain is another versatile product which gives you a flow capacity, draining of the water behind the retaining structures. For the landfill structures, leaching out the chemicals can be leached out through the provision of strata drain, and that gives you a quantum of saving, not only by reducing the environmental impact by the use of conventional material, but also it gives you a sustainable solution by reducing the carbon footprint onto the overall project. Next. So what we faced when we started doing with the EPD certifications, as Natasha has explained, there are a couple of stages from A1 to A3, then B1 to B5, C1 to C5, and then the reuse, recycle, sustainability aspect. All of this requires a complex process because at each process you need to check the energy conservation, you need to check the sustainable practices. To give you an example, if the manufacturing is at a single floor, then the complexity of the energy usage from ground floor to the top floor is eliminated, and that's where you save the energy consumption when you are doing a manufacturing. Again, the number of processes which are required to manufacture these kind of products is also important. The less the processes, the lesser is the energy impact. Plus, during the process of EPD creation, we noticed that to go to the uh, towards the greener aspect of the environmental concerns, we had to install the renewable energy sources on top of our manufacturing facility. We use the solar farms, and that's where the entire energy conservation we have been able to do with with our products when you are manufacturing. There is a variability in the production processes for the different geosynthetic material. So I'm giving certain examples of our own material. When we are manufacturing a geogrid, we have certain processes of beaming, kneading, and coating that requires to manufacture this product. Whereas in case of geocell, we require the punching pattern, then ultrasonic welding, and the sheet comes into the from the source yarn. So these all parameters are very much important when you are calculating your life cycle cost analysis through the for the EPD certification. And the data availability is a very key factor because when you have the inventory of a different products, the data availability of each of the processes, when it is formulated in a proper way, then it gives you an entire idea of how the EPD certification will give you the global warming potential values. The next point which I want to highlight is the raw materials, because if your raw material is virgin in nature, then you have a lot of processes that do not require you for having multiple changes. Like in case of if the material is recycled, then in the recycle processes you have to have the quality of raw material that is being coming to your manufacturing facility. Is it of the same quality? Is it falling within the same norms or within the same limits that has been prescribed? And because ultimately whatever the material has to be manufactured has to serve the intended purpose, has to serve the intended application, and technical parameters has cannot be compromised in this case. So that's where these all the features which are required, one has to consider them when you are creating your EPDs. We faced few of the challenges while we were doing it for getting the material database, and then the raw material distances. So those all, even the smallest thing matters a lot. I'll give you an example in the subsequent slides how the distance matters in creating the EPDs. Can you go next? Yes. Then a couple of things which requires the strategic planning and innovation, which is there. The way one manufactures their material in the single machine, are you able to manufacture the multiple product styles? Then the operational improvement in case of less damages and the lesser wastages that occurs during the manufacturing process. That also impacts a lot when you're creating your EPDs. And again, the market differentiation is basically much more required when you're speaking of the environmental conscious product, because that's what matters when you're reducing the burden on the mother earth. And we have been successful in creating EPDs for our product based on the help which has been provided by One Click LCA. Can you go to the next slide? Yes. Now, what parameters one should consider while creating the EPDs? I believe some of the members who have joined would be from the geosynthetic segment. If not, if they are from the other segment as well, you need to define your goal and scope, because that's what is mandatory and required when you are calculating your PCR and in accordance with the EN standard 15804 or the ISO standards. So what impacts and what are the necessary parameters one need to consider? Because I have been discussing about our product, but if one has to check their own product, so which are the units that one has to define the product which for which you want to calculate the EPDs. If it is a geosynthetic product, if it is a metallic product, then the unit, the declared unit, whether it can be in kgs, it can be in per square meter, and that functional unit is very much important when you are calculating, because all the parameters will be calculated, all the global warming potential and other impact assessment that you are doing for the EPDs is validated for that particular functional unit. It can be square meters or it can be kgs or some other parameter. Then what happens or when you calculate these impacts? So you require the background information for the use of EPDs and the scenarios for the different use phase and establishing the service life. Let me give you an example. Let's say if the product is designed for 50 years, and if the another product or the same product is used for 100 years, the assessment is totally different, because the service life intended is totally different in both the scenarios. And for the same matter, when the geosynthetic are used for a pavement structure or for the flexible pavement, the intended life is 20 years or 30 years maximum, and it goes for the rehabilitation further. But if the same structure is built for the reinforced soil structure, if the same product is used for the reinforced soil structure, then the intended life can be 100 years. So the definition of service life is very much required when you are calculating the EPDs. Can we go to the next? Yes, key life cycle assessment concepts, like you need to have your system boundaries, as has been explained by Natasha in earlier slide. Data selection and the quality of data is very much important. If you have a different source suppliers for your product manufacturing processes, then you need to check the quality of each source supplier, and that's where the entire EPD certification and entire EPD assessment matters a lot. The life cycle inventory analysis is dependent on your data collection and data monitoring, data segregation, and data collation. So all these things are very much required when you calculate your EPDs. Last is like this life cycle impact assessment through the software. So software should have an a data default values in case some of the data points you are not able to have it in your system, in your country, in your organization. So those impact values can be driven by a set of default values which will help you to generate your global assessment for your EPDs and for the different geosynthetic products. So this is a typical example of our strata grid HGO 60 EPD certification, what you get the impact indicators where you get to know the fossil, global warming potential, biogenic impact assessment, marine impact assessment, and then terrestrial impact assessment. So this gives you each and every aspect, not only that you are doing when you are utilizing this product for any of the engineering application. Let me tell you one thing. Are you compromising onto the natural habitat which you are using? Let me give you an example. If you are using this product for the shoreline application, is your freshwater or is your water habitat being disturbed? To what extent it is being disturbed? That values is required when you are doing a, a, a global energy and environment conscious organization would always look for these values when they are doing their design. So I would recommend each and every one of you to have an impact assessment for these factors when you are utilizing your product. So yeah. So when we were doing, let me give you a brief on a journey with one-click LCA. It has been a fantastic journey so far. We have been able to get all the help because the processes are pretty simple and it's very user friendly. Right from the onboarding process, gives you a mentorship program while developing the EPDs. It solves you all the problems, some default values if those are not matching to your country specific or if it's not matching to your organization specific. The guidance is provided through the mentorship program to assess and check the impact of those product by the default values or for the values which are set for the government guidelines. Then one another thing which is very special with one click LCA is they have a customized template for each of the product and each organization, because the product processes are different, because the product collation and data collection are totally different for not only for the product but for also for the organization. If some are using the total renewable energy sources, the template would be totally different, and if some or the part of the template requires a non-renewable energy sources, then that also creates a different measure. So that's why this benefit of working with one click LCA, we have been able to customize our own template, and the life cycle inventory data was checked and validated by an individual assessor who is thorough in the energy and environmental impact assessment, not only in India, but for all the global practices which has been done for a product. If not for the similar products, they have a set of values which helps a user to go and check their own product assessment. The one of the best part which I want to highlight, which I highlighted at the end, is life cycle impact assessment, because the software which we are using with one click LCA is being so user friendly that when we change the parameters in the input through the different modes of selection, either through the default values or for the values. Like, to give an example, when we installed the solar panels, we gave the data to the one click LCA, and we were requesting them to validate that data, and that helped us to lower the carbon impact onto our product manufacturing processes. When it is cradle to gate, can it give an environmental benefit by reusing the same material after intended life span is considered or it has been utilized? Then the same product is still monitored for the value addition which gives after its intended use. So this is very much, and this is very helpful through one click LCA. We are able to monitor those aspects as well. Can we go to the next? Yes. Now, in the geosynthetic industry context, I want to give a couple of examples for the benefit one has with the geosynthetic. All the while I was talking about the applications, how the geosynthetic can help you to lower your environmental assessment factors, to reduce your conventional material usage. But just to give a pictorial representation of each of these factors, I'll run through some of the slides where you'll see that how much of the impact the geosynthetic can cause to reduce the environmental burden. So can we go to the next slides? Yeah. Uh,
Suraj, actually, these were the slides.
okay, okay. I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so fair enough. I would then
All right, no problem.
Natasha, I believe thanks a lot for inviting me to give.
Yes, you
Uh,
can stay on, Suraj, because there are many questions about geosynthetics from the people who have joined. So maybe you can answer some for us.
okay, okay, sure.
All right. So thank you so much, Suraj, for such a detailed explanation. Uh, Now it is time for a poll. I will add this poll. That is, if you have an existing requirement for EPDs, okay, you can answer yes, and we will contact you for the EPD requirement. All right. So if you can just take uh, a couple of minutes to answer this poll, that would be very helpful. I believe the poll is live. So if you can just take a couple of minutes and answer the poll, that would be helpful. Somebody from One Click LCA will contact you. Okay. Suraj, I'm just going to place you on mute for
Sure,
now.
sure.
Once I'm
Please.
done, then I will open the speaker for you. All right. Thank you. All right. So Suraj spoke a lot about his EPDs and how they have been working. Thank you so much for that, Suraj. It was very interesting to learn so much about EPDs. Now, I mean, about the geosynthetics and their journey with One Click LCA in producing EPDs. Now, I'm going to talk about the rules for EPD creation. These are not exclusive to geosynthetics. These are rules that are to be followed for any product that you are getting an EPD for. Okay. So first of all, there are various standards. So Suraj mentioned that in order to get like your product, to understand how your product is working with different standards, or to get an overall standardization for all products, the EPD follows various guidelines. All right. So these are, you can think of these as umbrellas. All right. So the big large umbrella that is there is the ISO standard, the ISO 14040 and 14044. All right. And then there is a lower umbrella that is for the EN standard, that is the European standard, that is EN 15804 plus A2. Plus A2 is the newest standard, which includes even end of life strategies. Okay, so there is the big bracket of the ISO, and then there is the EN, and then you have a smaller instruction that's called GPI, that is based on the program operator. Okay, now program operator means where you publish your EPD. Now, Strata has published their EPD on EPD Hub. You can publish your EPD on EPD Hub or International EPD System. I believe there are like 50 program operators worldwide. So every program operator has something called general product instructions. And for each product, they have product category rules, or it's called the PCR. All right. So that is how each thing relates to. So it's a bigger bracket, a smaller bracket, and then a smaller bracket. All right. So okay. So the EPDs, they declare, so like I mentioned, the EPDs are according to ISO 14040, 14044, 14025. The EN standard is EN 15804. For construction products, the ISO standard is also there, that is called 21930. All right. So it is ISO 14040, 14044, and then you have 21930, and then the EN standard, that is 15804. The newest standard is EN 15804 plus A2. There are the lots of EPDs that have been published after 2023 will have end of life data, that is EN 15804 plus A2 standard. All right. Um, so when you get the report from One Click LCA, it is called, so the report that you get from One Click LCA will pretty much look like this. All right, it will have all of the aspects, but a life cycle assessment or an LCA, a product LCA becomes an EPD only after it is third party verified. So for example, in any case, the where you are publishing your EPD, whether it is EPD Hub or EPD International, there are allocated verifiers who will go through your assessment, who will go through the product LCA report, and then they will say, okay, this is good to go, and you can publish your EPD. So an LCA becomes an EPD only once it is third party verified by someone. Okay. Now there are different types of EPDs. So there is third party verified. So where you have like a parent EPD, you can use it for all applications, but you need to have 1 year production data. All right. Then there is a sister EPD, that is a full EPD, but it's a variant. So you can have like maybe one change, and then you can generate a sister EPD. So if you have like many products which are very similar, and maybe they just change in a bit of like maybe just the production processes, then you can generate sister EPD. But there is a requirement that the GWP, that is the global warming potential, should not exceed more than 50%. Okay, this you will know only once you have done an LCA of both the parent EPD and the sister EPD. Okay. Next, you have design phase EPD. That is, if you do not have 1 year production data, let's say you're a startup and you're testing out a product, but you want to get an EPD, then you can get a design phase EPD. Design phase EPD is mainly valid only for 18 months. Okay. So the assumption is that in 18 months, you will have a production facility set up and you will be able to produce 1 year data and get a full-fledged EPD. All right. Then there is something called project EPD. Project EPD is basically it is a product that's been created specifically for one project only. That is, you have a commercial requirement for one project only, and you do not use this product later on. All right. Then you can get a project EPD, which is valid only for 36 months. Of course, it should have 1 year projection, 1 year production data. All right. Who uses your EPDs and why they are important for future manufacturing? Okay. Who uses your EPDs? Architects, engineers, developers, they all use. So in Suraj's case, there are many civil engineers who use Strata's EPDs. They use it to understand sustainability requirements. They use it to understand how to make their project lesser impact. They use it to understand sustainability compliances such as LEED, BREEAM. All right. For infrastructure, also there is Envision, Past 2080, SQL, all of these things, which you can also comply with for infrastructure projects. Projects. Manufacturers use also their EPD for competition. Like your competitor has an EPD, you can benchmark. Like for example, in One Click LCA, you can compare and benchmark between different products. So we have a new tool that's called Material Compass. So you can compare between two products outside of the project environment. Then we have suppliers EPDs who use their own LCAs, and who also many companies use it as a marketing tool. So you would have seen like many companies have some fancy EPDs with like their logo and things like that. So it is also used as a marketing tool. All right. EPDs enable life cycle assessment. So in building LCA, like for example, you can compare product to product. You can see how to design your building with a low impact. Where you, like for example, if you want to choose between concrete that has recycled binders versus concrete that does not have recycled binders, all of these things you can compare. In One Click LCA, like Suraj explained, we work very differently with our clients. All right. So I'm also conscious of the time. I'm going to wrap up in 5 minutes so that we can answer some questions that there might be. All right. So in one click LCA, what happens is once you purchase the software, like Suraj mentioned, there is a mentor that is assigned to you, and there is also a mentorship program. So what happens is during this time, you will it's a hand holding exercise to model your first product, and once you have this knowledge, you can scale to get any other product EPDs that you may be working on. All right. So there will be a mentor that is assigned to you. The mentor will help you from 0 point, that is data collection, mapping your plant data with one click LCA data points, because that is the most hardest. All right. Getting that data out of your plant, like how Suraj explained for his product, there were complexities involved because it's a highly complex product, actually, geosynthetics, because it's like a complex polymer. So getting those data points, like Suraj mentioned, even the production floor, understanding the production distances, all of these things has to be calculated and put into your LCA model. One the LCA model is anyway automated. It's you get an LCA, you will get an EPD, you will create an LCA report. So at the end of the mentorship, you will have an LCA, you will have an EPD, you will have an LCA report. We will also help you with third-party verification and the publication if it is EPD Hub. All right. So the onboarding, we have these are our mentors. So these are my lovely colleagues who will help you with your product. There will be theoretical and practical training. So the theoretical will be the course, and the practical training will be on developing the EPD of your own product. All right. And then you will have workshops. They will help you model your first LCA. There will be technical queries if you have any questions, understanding the complexities of your product and your production facilities. All of this will be done by our support team. All right. And we, like Suraj mentioned, we have custom templates which will be created for you. All right. So when you buy the software from One Click LCA, you don't buy an empty software. You buy a software that has data pre-filled. Okay. So we have dozens of templates. All of our templates, if you want to know which template is available for which product, you can always go to our help center and you will find all the details. So we have templates for cementitious, metal-based, wood, plumbing, paints, coating, insulation, almost all product categories we are covering. All right. So your EPD journey, you need to understand what is your actual output. Like, what are you trying to understand? Are you trying to get only an EPD for only your, your main sale product? Or are you trying to get an EPD for all of your inventory, all of your SKUs? So then you can understand, you need to group your products, cost, understand the cost of it, have a clear understanding of how your products should be grouped, have a clear understanding of how you want to take your products and get them EPD certified. All right. Like, what is your time scale? What is your cost in calculation? All of these things. And of course, the software, getting an EPD is one of the features of the software, but you can also develop, like, you can use the software for R&D purposes. So like Suraj said, when they shifted from grid electricity to renewable energy, they were able to model this in the software and understand how it is impacting their production and how it is reducing their environmental impact. All right. So you can use the software for eco design. You can use the software for R&D, for design development. You can understand also, if I change my supplier from a carbon intensive product to a non-carbon intensive product, what happens? All right. So you can model this. I feel this is the greater value of the software. Quite honestly, we have a second poll now. That is, would you like to generate automated and cost efficient LCAs with one click LCA? I think, yeah, I will add this poll now. Okay. So you can submit your vote here. All right. And yeah, now we can go to the Q&A. Yeah, so let me look at the questions here. What is the difference between ISO audited LCIS and EPDs? I think I already explained that. Um, can you please explain the lifetime of a geosynthetic material? I believe that is for you, Suraj.
Yeah, so for the lifetime of the geosynthetic material can be checked through different modes. One is you have the EN standard, EN 13251, which gives you an indicator for the lifetime assessment for the geosynthetic. Just to give you an example, the polyethylene terephthalate (PET) material is prone to hydrolysis. So that is the prime concern for measuring the lifetime assessment for the PET material. And you can get this data when you are using the engineering product for calculating the hydrolysis for different fast-paced tracked testing, and then you get to know the lifetime assessment for the product, if it is for 50 years, if it is for 25 years, for 100 years. If the product sustains minimum 50% of the strength through 112 days of rigorous testing for the hydrolysis, then the product is intended to use more than 100 years. Same case goes for the polyethylene material. If you are testing it for the oxidation resistance, and if the product surpasses minimum 50% of the strength through 112 days test of testing, then you can use it more than 100 years. I believe this answered the question.
All right. Thank you, Suraj. Are there any other questions? Please feel to drop in the chat. We'll be happy to ask Suraj. Or if you have any questions for me, you can ask me as well. After how much time EPDs are reassessed? So every EPD is valid for 5 years, after which you need to uh, redo the LC assessment.
Correct.
How much does it usually cost to generate an EPD for a wooden product like furniture? Uh, if you are okay, we can take this separately because the cost really depends on the complexity of the product
Right.
and what you want to actually achieve. So, if you can give us your details, we can contact you for the cost.
And I think further they need to check because the furniture is one aspect, but the usage may be totally different. So you need to
Correct.
check what is the intended use. Like Natasha had explained in the scope, you need to define your scope, and that's where you will be able to calculate your uh, environmental impact assessment through EPDs.
Correct. Correct. Thank you, Suraj, for saying that. That is actually a very important aspect. Some people are typing here, so let's just give them some time. You, we are getting wood from FSC certified, but may not make the furniture itself sustainable, or does it? See, FSC is a different certification altogether. FSC says that like it's the forestry certification. It's for the actual wood. But once you take away that wood and you make it a furniture, let's say a table or a chair, the EPD is for the chair. It's not for the wood.
Basically, I would further add to it is
Yes,
getting
please.
a wood from FSC certified is your source. From
Exactly. Yeah.
source to your manufacturing process, and to make the furniture is your actually a process. So to make it self-sustainable, you need to check your processes. How environmental conscious your processes are will define how self-sustainable your product will be.
Exactly, correct. And having an FSC certification definitely has value,
Yes.
because you will be able to understand, okay, that I can depend on my A4, A3 emissions. That is your transportation, your actual raw material can be validated, because such things can come from an FSC certification.
Right.
All right. I think that's about it for the questions. I don't see anyone else has any questions. We still have 4 minutes. If no one has any questions, we can wrap it up, or we can wait for the next 4 minutes. Please feel free to ask any questions you might have. We, I mean, you are getting an opportunity with Suraj. That's a great thing because he's very knowledgeable in what he does. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Yeah.
Is is third party verification compulsory? Yes.
Yes.
Without the third party verification, it's not an EPD. It's only an LCA. If your requirement is only for product LCA, then you don't have to get a third party verification. If your requirement is to get an EPD, then it has to be third party verified. Like how Suraj said, it is important for you to understand your scope and your agenda, like what you are trying to do. If you are happy with an LCI, that's fine. You don't have to get it third party verified. If you want to get a proper EPD, a third party verified, if it's called a type 3 EPD, that is a third party verified EPD, then you have to get it third party verified.
Okay.
All
I think
right.
you answered her question. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think we can wrap it up,
Sure.
unless there are any other questions. Thank you so much, Suraj. We finished right on time, and thank you so much for giving such detailed information about geogrids and about Strata also. All right. Thank you everyone for taking the time to join us. If you have any questions, please do. You can always send us an email at sales@oneclicklca.com. Have a nice rest of the day. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Natasha. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Suraj.
Thank you.